not going to be intermixed with any other material if and when we start accepting it. And I assure you that we will communicate with you before that ever happens. But if and when we begin accepting coal ash again, because it was once accepted there, it would be in a monofill cell on top of the liner system that we're happy to talk further about in questions and answers. So coal ash, just briefly, coal ash is the result of, or the residue, if you will, of electric facilities that burn coal to produce power. Historically, electric facilities have taken that coal residue, that ash, and they've done one of two things with it. They've either put it in a pond or they've laid it out kind of on a field almost as dust to sort of decompose over time. The federal government has been looking at coal ash since 1993, not just the EPA, but the U.S. Geological Service as well. Independent experts have been studying the notion of coal ash and how best to dispose of it for, again, more than 2 decades now. Time and again, they come back with the same conclusion. It is non-hazardous. And coal ash is not, this is important for you to be aware of, it is not regulated as a radioactive material. Again, coal ash is not regulated as a radioactive material. So the federal government has told the electric power producers that use coal to produce power that they've got to do something different, that it's got to go in a lined landfill. It's got to go in a Subtitle D lined landfill, such as Broadhurst. Or they have to line it in their own containment system on site at the electric power generation facility. So the federal government is changing the way that coal ash is handled, and it is going to have to go somewhere. Either power producers can decide to contain it on site, again, using a liner, or it's going to have to go into a Subtitle D lined landfill, such as Broadhurst. So I know there's a lot of questions, and we're going to get to those, but I want to reiterate again, Broadhurst landfill is a remarkable landfill. It is an extraordinary site that's committed to responsible landfill management. It's committed to preserving our wetlands. We planted more than 115,000 trees there. It's just a breathtakingly beautiful site. Me talking to you, or Jeremy and I showing you a few slides, does not do the landfill justice. And I would really encourage the community to take us up on our offer to come out for an open house on March 30. We also have a new website that we launched today, broadhurstlandfill.com. Again, broadhurstlandfill.com. Please go to the site. You'll find more information about operations, capabilities, hours of service. But you're also going to find a lot of answers about coal ash, and you're going to find a lot of answers about groundwater protections. So please take us up on our offer to come to the open house. Please visit the website. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn this back over to you, and then we can get to all the Q&A.
Thank you, guys. Audience, thank you again for your patience. I want to make sure we get through this as quickly as possible, but I also want to take my time and make sure, a lot of you have been waiting for this meeting for a long time. We've got a lot of questions, so we're just going to have to be patient and let's get through the night here. I'm going to take just a minute. I want to recognize my fellow Wayne County Commissioners tonight. If you guys will stand or either raise your hand. I didn't put all this together by myself. Stand up, guys, real quick. I just want to give a thanks to these guys. Wayne County Commission, stand up, please. I didn't put this together by myself. These guys are very instrumental in helping me get this together. Thank you. We've tried to get some chairs out in the audience. Where's Doug Lewis at? If we've got any more in the back, I think we can put some down the rows in here. You people in the back, if we get a chair, we're trying our best to accommodate you as the night goes on. I do want to add this in. Mr. Langford has been gracious enough to get the Carl Vinson Institute to video this meeting. And is it right, you're going to make these available?
I'm going to give them to you.
You're going to give them to me. So anybody that is in the back, okay. You'll be anybody in the back that can't see and wants to total video this for the records, or if you're in the back and you can't see the podium or anything and want to watch it later, we will have those available at a later date, and I want to thank you for that. Republic, again, thank you for your time, for coming. We're trying to get to the public and comment session here. I've got a quick few speakers that's going to come up one at a time. As I call on you, if you guys will come to the podium, please, for sake of time, do your best to keep this 10 minutes and under. We've got a UGA geologist, and I've had trouble all night pronouncing his name, Dr. Rasmussen. Thank you for coming.
Thank you all. I'll echo the pastor's words. I wish I had as many students show up to my lectures as we got here tonight. The other is I'll get in trouble with Bill McLemore at EPD. He had one of my colleagues arrested because the media called him a geologist. I'm not a geologist. I'm a hydrologist. Hydrologist studies water, so it's not rocks, it's actually water. So these are just two reasons why EPA is concerned. Can you guys hear me in the back? Okay. Yeah. And so, wave your hands or something if you can't hear me. And so the impetus or the reason why we have these new rules is they've had a couple of failures of coal ash ponds. One was in, let's see, how does this work? Is it this way? There we go. The Kingston plant, it's up on the Clinch River, is a TVA facility. It failed in 2008. About 1 billion gallons of coal ash spilled into the Clinch River. More recently, Duke Energy had a Dan River spill up in North Carolina. And in that case, it was 27 million gallons, but it was toxic with metals and different compounds in that spill. Too many buttons on here. Okay. So various scientific studies have shown that southeastern landfills fail much more routinely than in other parts of the country. Not sure why. Part of it's the kind of clay we have that are used to cap and cover these and as liners underneath, as well as the wet climate that we have here. Arizona in the desert, the dry landscape, they just don't have the failure risk that we have here. Another problem we have in here is this colloid-assisted transport. It's these clays pick up the toxic metals and carry them through the groundwater in ways that you don't see in other parts of the country. We learned this the hard way at the Savannah River site. It's a federal nuclear facility near Aiken, South Carolina, and they've just had dickens of a time trying to keep their coal ash on site because of the failures of their facilities there. The other problem that we've seen around the country is that there is a natural background radiation in coal. It's unavoidable, it's naturally occurring, but you tend to concentrate it as you burn the coal. The ash is the residual material left behind by the combustion of the coal. Now, EPA breaks it into two groups, norms, which are the naturally occurring, and then they call it TE norms, or T norms, which are the technologically enhanced. And actually, EPA does regulate coal ash as the T norm. It's much, well, I won't say much, it can be much higher than the norm that it came from. I'm going to have somebody else do this for me. Oh, it works. So anyway, this is just a Scientific American article. It's a populist article. So what I did is I did some research and looked at, see if I could actually validate or evaluate the data that went into this study, because you can't, it's like Wikipedia. Can you really trust it? And so, looking into this, Oak Ridge National Labs, a number of the national labs that have worked with coal ash have, done extensive studies to show that there is enhanced radioactive materials in this coal ash. I work in the nuclear field. I work at the Savannah River site mostly for my research, and so there's a lot of care and concern about nuclear waste at the Savannah River site and any number of nuclear facilities around the country. Nuclear reactors, you've got your plant here close by. I mean, the risk of nuclear contamination from a power plant is there, it's real. You have just as much nuclear materials in the coal industry. It's disseminated, it's not concentrated, it's not going to blow up, but it's something that you need to track and monitor. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry. So the question is this really going to work? When we look at nuclear waste, we try and make sure it stays where it is for 10,000 years. You know, the question is if 30 years from now it fails, 100 years, 1,000 years. I mean, I'm hoping that people still live here 1,000 years from today, and just because the word lives is isolated for 30 years, I mean, you can't just walk away ever from these things. It's going to be there forever. And the wetland impact, since we're discussing wetlands today, you know, I work a lot down in Florida as well, and one of the issues down there is you don't just put a 10 or 50-foot buffer around the wetland and say that it's safe. You actually look at the hydrology of the wetland. You know, I'm not familiar with what the wetland requirements are for this facility, but you know, if we can go to the next page. So what we have here, hydrologic, is a very flat landscape. And if you put wells around the margin of your site, we've learned that the water is not really flowing sideways, it's flowing straight down. And so what you really want are monitoring wells underneath the site. At nuclear power plants that have failed, at Indian Point, and a number of others around the country, the radiation didn't go sideways, it went underneath. And so, you know, that'll be one of my questions, is how many wells are directly underneath the landfill site? And so, especially if you have a large-scale pumping, unfortunately, Jesup has a big cone of depression. There's regional aquifer pumping here from the Florida aquifer that causes the local groundwater to be below the surface. So you have a primarily vertical gradient and very little lateral gradient. And the other issue is they have borrow pits, which are these holes that they excavate materials from to cover the landfill. And what those tend to do is lower the regional water table in the vicinity, and any wetlands near them tend to be drained from below. It'd be like pulling the water down in a barrel, and everything around it drops along with it. So next slide. So, last slide. There we go. There we go. You know, so I guess the questions I would have is, are there any reports or documentation, I guess, it'd be helpful to find just what kind of materials are going in here. Is there an expectation of the quantities of toxic metals? And then, you know, okay, if there are no nuclear materials, it'd be nice to have some data, you know, just to see what's in this stuff. And then if you have leachate and wash water, you know, that's one of the big problems we have in Georgia. I mean, a lot of landfills have leachate, and very few places around the state actually accept leachate these days. It's a real burden on small landfills to find people who are willing to take it. And, you know, if it has a concentrated effluent, are the local POTWs, publicly owned treatment works, are they willing to accept this leachate? You know, how will deep leakage under the site be monitored? And then the question on the wetlands, you know, is there any effort to look at how dewatering near the site might affect these wetlands? And, you know, is it just a buffer around the wetlands, or will there actually be a hydrologic analysis like they do in Florida? So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Dr. Rasmussen's a UGA geologist that came down on his He said geologist. No.
If they put me in jail, they can hear.
You blame my current clerk. Guys, he came down on his own. I want to give him a big thank you one more time. Big I know Donna has some some questions. We're not going to give answers to any of those at this time. We're going to hold our questions and answer to our public comment session. If this is anything you guys want to comment, you can get records on it, put it on your website, or send it to us as a county, and we can find a way to get that out of there. Next person I want to come up to the podium is a dear friend of mine, former Congressman Lindsey Thomas. If you'll come up, please.
You know, our brand here in Wayne County is what we maintain is a great place to live and work. In a place where we value our God-given natural environment and where we want our economic life to thrive now and for all future generations. In my opinion, now all of those things stand threatened in the face of the proposed expansion and operation of the Broadhurst landfill. It wasn't enough that Republic bought the site for a paltry $10. They also felt it necessary to deprive our local county government of any control over the Broadhurst landfill. In fact, it was stated that there would be recourse against us and against them who represent us if they did anything to interfere with or question the plan in any way. Let me ask the public a few questions. They can answer these at the time appropriate. Does a responsible and reputable corporate citizen take a regional landfill and turn it into a national dump without a word to the community in which it is located? Does a reputable corporate citizen apply for controversial permits without any proper disclosure of their intent to the public? Do they plan an entirely new concept of bringing material as controversial as they well knew coal ash to be without informing the public? Have they clearly stated how much and what they intend to bring in and from where it will come? As they more than doubled the footprint of Broadhurst site, as they did this, was there any public notice of their intent or their future plans? No. Did they disclose that their lobbyists in D.C., and I know a little bit about those people, were embedded in the debate to declare coal ash non-hazardous and suitable for dumping in lined landfills? Were they preparing for that eventual outcome well in advance of EPA's declaration? These are questions that should have been answered by a responsible corporation long before their plan was devised. It should not have been dumped on the people of this area like the garbage they make their fortune with. Let me tell you, as scary as coal ash is, with its traces of mercury and lead and everything else that you saw Dr. Rasmussen point out, let's don't forget about municipal waste. What is it? It's garbage. It's the garbage that no one else anywhere wants. What's in it? Just let your imagination wander. That's what could be in it. Anything that you can imagine. Just a few months back, they were sifting through the Broadhurst landfill. Maybe it's been a little bit longer than a couple of months. In search of missing bodies, human bodies. If you can dispose of human bodies in the process, what else might you be able to dump there? As great as the concerns for Wayne County, however, just a few miles away from the site is the Alderman Hall. The drain field and the basement system covers 1/4 of the state of Georgia. There are streams immediately near, and this has been pointed out, the Broadhurst site that flow directly into the Alderman Hall and on into the Georgia coast. This is the lower coastal plains, gentlemen, on the eastern division of our state, just above the coast. Imagine a 100-year flood and all that it would sweep into its currents on the way to the coast just below. Imagine something else, an E5 tornado. You've seen it on television. literally gouging out trenches in the land itself and whirling everything in its path into the air and out over the land around it for miles and miles and miles. What would it do to one of those mountains? Now you might ask me why I'm suggesting so many things for us all to imagine. It's simple. It's because there are no limits or parameters on what the future holds for Broadhurst. How long the trains will run, what will they really be bringing in, or from where will it be coming? Their 2005 agreement calls for anywhere in the United States that they choose to bring it in. Now this is my precise message that we must keep in mind here this evening. Because Republic has dealt us out of the process and control, we consequently have no idea or any control over the future that we face. If EPD and EPA both sign off on permits that Republic is requesting, and if the Corps of Engineers commits to construction of the rail spur, then we have only one court in which we can present our grievances and our concerns: the Court of Public Opinion. It's the court you're in here this evening, and don't forget it, it elects presidents and congressmen and United States senators. Republic is a publicly traded company, and anything that has the potential to affect the value of its stock must be reported to the Securities and Exchange Commission. That info is then studied by analysts who do reports to potential and existing investors. What if a brief article in the Wall Street Journal describes the controversy that Republic has brought on itself in the well-known environmentally sensitive area of the Omaha and the Georgia coast? Would this then become a concern for major investors and Republic's own board of members of that board of directors? Well, that would be interesting to see. There have been Pulitzer Prize-winning articles and even books written on unethical corporations preying on struggling rural areas all across America. Is this such a situation? Yes. We've been left with no alternative. Republic has handled the entire affair in a manner that leaves us totally void, in my opinion, in any trust in them. For my part, I'm not going to put any confidence in any of their public relations attempts to smooth over our concerns. I, for one, will have to see any promises they make in the form of a legally binding contract, as they did in the 205 contract that gave them the carte blanche to do whatever they want here in our county. I can't help but recall the words of that old country song: Republic gets the gold mine and we get the shack.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, Mr. Dean Neesmith is going to come up. Gentlemen, again, thank you for your time. I urge you to keep it under 10 minutes, please.
I estimate there are about 500 people in this room and out in the hall. That really says something. But you know what? There are thousands in heaven, including my parents, that are looking down, wondering what we're going to do about this situation. And one of them is the late Dr. Douglas Jackson from Gardai. And he said, you know the 5 B's of a good talk? I said, what are they? He said, be brief, brother, be brief. I'm going to hurry along so you'll have some time. I really do appreciate everyone being here tonight. Your presence is a testimony to how much you care and love Wayne County. and how concerned you are about our future. Wednesday night is prayer meeting night, and I know hundreds of others are in church right now. And otherwise, they'd be here too. And in those services, Brother Mickey, I hope they're turning to 1 Samuel 17:32 and reading the story of David and Goliath. My friends, we're up against a multi-billion-dollar bully, a Goliath in the waste management business. But we, just like David, cannot and will not be intimidated. We must stand our ground. Yesterday I found this quotation by Horace Mann. Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity. I believe that's why we're here tonight. If I am breathing, I am with you, fighting for the health and the well-being of our community, my hometown. In the battle against this bully, Republic, like you, I can find no peace of mind. And here's why. Despite Republic's legal and regulatory advantages, the whole issue boils down to one word. T-R-U-S-T. Trust. And since Republic's representatives snookered our leadership in 2005, this Goliath has demonstrated we cannot and should not trust it. The record will show Republic has done everything it can to keep its actions out of public view. Oh yes, it's put on a recent dog and pony show, but I can assure you, out in Phoenix, Arizona, the big shots at Republic are laughing at us for being suckers. Really, can we afford to trust Republic? No. Republic says it has no contracts to haul toxic coal ash. Why then is Republic gobbling up thousands of acres in our pine woods? Why is Republic ready to spend millions of dollars to build a massive rail spur? Why is coal ash mentioned repeatedly in its application? Why is an official of CSX Railroad, the company that will profit from hauling toxic coal ash, why is that official contacting me to try to silence my uproar? And why has a vice president of the Georgia Power Company, the biggest producer of coal ash in the state, why is that top official contacting me to say my coal ash fears are unnecessary? He wants to bring his spin doctors to educate me more on the safety of coal ash. He accused me of using fear to sell our newspapers. That's just plain garbage like you'll find in Mount Trashmore and Boulevard. Should we trust these officials as well? No. Wayne County might need the revenue, but we cannot afford to become an environmental prostitute for Republic's few pieces of silver. Well, actually, it's a lot more silver than Judas got, but that really should only make us shout louder. We cannot be bought. It remains to be seen if Republic is following the letter of the law, but it's clear Republic has no regard for the spirit of the law, which is to protect the people. If this rail spur is allowed, a floodgate of horror will open. We will be contaminated forever, way beyond 30 years with toxic coal ash. Republic, if you really want to be a good neighbor, as you say you do, meet us at the table to renegotiate an agreement that ensures Wayne County a healthier future. If you refuse to do that, you can trust us. We will find the right stone to bring down this Goliath. Perhaps where it hurts most, as my friend Lindsay says, on Wall Street. Republic, this is not a threat. If I'm breathing, brother, this is a promise.
Thank you, Mr. Lee Smith. We appreciate what you've done for the community. Mr. David Stewart, would you come forward?
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Copeland. And heeding your encouragement to streamline this process, if I could invite Mr. Mike Hunter to stand next to me so we can handle this. My name is David Stewart. It's my privilege and honor to be here at Mr. Neesmith's invitation and his support, along with my law firm, Crowder Stewart in Augusta, Georgia. The members of my law firm are present, Mr. Ken Crowder and our former United States Attorney for the Southern District of Georgia, Eddie Booth. Standing next to me, very close,
I grew up here.
I know, is the City of Jesup's attorney, Mike Connor. As attorneys, we've been working together on behalf of concerned citizens in this community to look at the legal issues in this area. As you know, environmental matters are heavily regulated. I'd like to thank our regulators, our 5 members of the Army Corps of Engineers for being present, our representative from EPD Land Division, our director for the DNR, and I promise I will try not to use many acronyms. In the world of environmental law, there are lots of acronyms, and so I will try to break that down as we go along. We have a few matters that we would like to ask questions about. We understand that to make this meeting go faster, we won't be able to hear the responses. But ladies and gentlemen, as you go home tonight, and as you go through each day, as you think about what you're facing, I want you to think about these questions. I'd ask the regulators to do the same. How can permits be granted without answers to our questions? Mr. Connor.
Well, thank you. As all of you that know, I grew up here. I grew up as a poor little boy on the corner of Macon Street, and my 102-year-old grandmama had a garden on that corner, and we didn't have much, and she didn't have much. But she sure liked that piece of dirt. And folks, I sure like this piece of dirt. This is my home. I jumped out of a perfectly good law firm in Savannah, Georgia to come back. I love this place, and I love this little piece of dirt. I've got a copy of the Section 404 application that Republic filed, and I'm going to leave it right here so we don't forget what's in that application, because apparently somebody forgot when they came here and told you tonight there were no plans to store coal ash in this landfill. At page 4 of that application, it says that the Southern Company, the parent company of Georgia Power, announced in 2015 its